We
think it's true.
had an appeal that said, these are students that we've seen come through this building, and these are their stories. And based off of that, we raised $68,000 just by a paddle raise.
That's great.
Because it's so powerful and everybody can
Yeah.
identify with it.
Sure.
So, yeah.
That's really incredible. And that so that just happened. That's your annual fundraiser.
Yes.
And is that primarily how you get support? Is through your annual fundraiser and donations?
Yes. We have, what most people don't know about the Cultural Center is that we are not a government entity. We're not backed by tax revenue. We're all here because of grants and private donations and people like the CPRD who's allowed us to use their building space and taking care of our needs like janitorial or maintenance, that kind of stuff. So we are only here on donations given to the Cultural Center. There's been no bond. So what we rely on mainly for our day-to-day is memberships. So we ask the community to become a member, therefore you're financially supporting us, and there's benefits with that.
Sure.
But then there's different monetary levels that you can give as well. And then our annual, we'll have a few smaller fundraisers throughout the year, and then our annual fundraisers where we're hoping to generate most of our revenue for the upcoming year or towards a building project to some effect.
Because I would imagine most of the fee-based classes probably go to pay the instructor.
Yeah, most of our classes, we're not here to make money on classes.
Right.
We're here to
Just facilitate the experience, right?
exactly. And especially with, we're in competition with places that are subsidized by government, so they have cut their classes in half because they can pay their teachers without necessarily filling a class. So we don't make money off of the classes essentially, but we do make money with our events. We have a lot of sponsorships. Most of the events that we offer at the Cultural Center are free to the public. And because of that, we're able to get businesses to generously support us. And like the city of Newburgh stepped up and gave us a lot last year for the Camellia Festival to make sure that it was free to the public.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I know that before we started, you mentioned something about a call to artists, and you're going to do an artist showcase. Is
Yes.
that okay?
So,
want to talk about that?
Yeah, every quarter pretty much we change out the central gallery, which is a beautiful space inside the Cultural Center. And right now through January, we have a gentleman named Greg Navratil, who's, if you haven't seen his work, you have to go to the Cultural Center and see it. It's very fun and vibrant.
What does he do? Is he a painter?
He's an acrylic painter,
Okay.
and it's something like, it's hard to describe, but it's very impressionistic, but vibrant, bright, neon colors. It's almost like it's on Photoshop, but you've amped up all of the different the saturations.
Like that one funny thing you can do with the iPad camera.
Exactly.
That makes the weird, like the thermal.
Yep,
yeah, okay.
exactly. It looks like
Yeah.
that, but they're beautiful and they
Oh, how
look so
fun.
real.
Okay.
And when you look up close, they're like all these little worms or something. But and then while this is all happening, we're having our first jury selection for the Oregon Artist Showcase, which we're now having call to artists. And so you can submit an application. You can find all this on our website. And we're essentially looking for the best 2D artist in Oregon. And it could be from anywhere in Oregon.
In any medium.
Any medium. Mixed media, painting, drawing, you name it.
Okay.
And then we have a juror. I can't remember her name right now, unfortunately, but we have an amazing juror. And then there'll be an announcement of who it is, and they'll all be hung in the Cultural Center. So.
And when is the show going to take place?
I believe it's mid-January through February.
Okay.
Yes.
And you'll probably have some sort of, I would imagine, an event like an opening night or something associated with that?
Yes, we'll have an artist reception. I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but
it's on your website.
They are on our website.
I'm assuming that your website is a .org?
Yes, it's chehalemculturalcenter.org.
Okay.
And Chehalem can be a little funny to spell, but you can usually
Stumble
search
through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably anybody who's watching this will figure out how to spell Chehalem.
Yes.
I mean, it's
pretty popular in this area.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we are accepting applications, and we're looking forward to this being an annual thing as well, where you and it's a great resume builder for any artist too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And the works will be for sale, I'm assuming.
I assume so. Most of the works that we have in our gallery it's up to the artist's discretion if they're going to sell it or not.
Or if they
So-
just want to take them all back home and keep them forever and ever.
Yeah, yeah, but it could be that they don't want to sell it, and that's fine. Part of the proceeds do go to the cultural center off of a sale, so we are kind of like a gallery there.
So I've heard you talk about painting, and I've heard you talk about dance, and I've heard you talk about clay. I love that Muddy Buddies.
Muddy Buddies, yeah.
I think that's really cute. Do you do writing classes at all?
We do. We have a McMinnville writer, Barbara Drake, who has quite a following. She teaches classes there.
Okay.
And then we have a new instructor who teaches teen writing. And so it's still a developing sector of our programming. But so far, those classes have gone off really well.
I know the other night, the Arts Alliance of Yamhill County, I mean, you probably know them. I'm sure you guys are affiliated. They were talking about the paper gardens that's coming up and that they wanted to do more outreach in Newburgh. So I was thinking at the time, well, maybe approaching the cultural center would be, you know, with applications and with some information about the paper gardens writing, because I know that a lot of people who are writers tend to feel, well, you know, the painters, they get all the, you know, or the clay
get left
people, the
out.
potters, you know, there's a lot of other, you know, maybe more visually arresting media that, and then the writer, well, that's kind of, you know, boring and lonely and you're stuck behind a computer someplace in your house. So I think it's kind of great to give, you know, give that some, I guess you might want to say a focus as well. Yeah.
Well, and we believe that every sector of the arts has some
Sure.
importance, and it should be celebrated and embraced there.
Now, what about that, like jewelry making? Do you guys do jewelry making classes there?
We're not necessarily set up for that yet, but we do. The other part of it is we recognize the businesses that are providing those, and so, like for instance, we had the Newburgh jeweler. I don't know what her new name is because she's moved her studio space, but we offered her a class in her catalog. So though we couldn't offer it, here's somebody else who does,
Right.
and why try to compete with something like that when
Oh,
it's already
exactly.
happening? She's got a beautiful setup. So yeah, that's what
That's exciting.
yeah, and the same for dance too. The Chehalem Dance Academy does a great job with dance, and so we haven't really ventured much into the dancing yet. We have, I think, a few salsa and merengue classes coming up. So.
But that's always festive. Something that, you know, maybe more geared toward adults
adults,
too.
yeah.
So do you have any special events that are sort of holiday themed? You want to talk about those?
Well, the Downtown Newburgh Coalition does the annual tree lighting with the Newburgh Public Library. And so this is kind of your very festive and very Santa event where Santa comes in on a fire truck right in front of the cultural center. And then, I mean, usually there's a crowd of at least 500 people. And then they light a huge tree in front of the cultural center. And so that's an event. And I think this year we're going to be selling mugs and hot chocolate. And then you can get pictures with Santa and those kinds of things. And then the following day, we're doing a winter workshop. So you can come in and make artful gifts for the holidays.
Oh, that's great.
That's very affordable. I think like platters are $10 a platter. And I'm actually teaching pasta classes, and so you can make dried pastas and give them out to friends for gifts. And then there's fused glass and encaustic.
You know, when you said that, you know, it made me think about, remember back in the day, I don't know if you were ever a Girl Scout or anything, but how you did those like macaroni necklaces or when you make the bird out of the different kinds of dried beans and pastas. All of a sudden when you said the dried pasta, that's like what my mind went to, and I thought, oh no.
We try not to dip into like the really crafty things there, but
back to the 60s. Okay.
well, this is more like buckwheat pasta to hand out to your
like
family
food,
members.
Food gifts. I love it. That's great.
Yeah, so we really thought in, and like we have encaustic ornaments and fused glass platters and ornaments that you can build too.
So for people that are looking for maybe some sort of holiday themed things to do with their kids, that's a great option,
Yep,
and they can
exactly.
find all that information on your website.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, that sounds exciting. So you've got the holiday stuff, and then you've got your big showcase coming up in February. Well, like looking ahead just a little bit, then you do the Camellia Festival again in March.
This year it's actually in April.
April, okay.
We moved it so it doesn't compete with spring break.
And do you try to do it when the camellias are in full bloom?
Camellias are actually a year-round flower, and so we'll have certain blooms that are obviously going. Most of them tend to bloom between spring and the fall, but there are some winter blooms, I believe.
You know, I'm from the Bay Area, and when I first moved up here, because camellias bloom in December there, and so I was really surprised when I moved here to see camellias blooming like in February. I was thinking, wow, that's late, because it was, you know, the first year I moved here, I didn't realize that things were just like that much later.
Yep. And last year it was the perfect timing because it was like rainy and cold, and so we were afraid that there wasn't going to be any blooms, but it all worked out. It got warm and it was fine. But yeah, that's why it's good to push the date back a little bit further too.
Because you're more likely to have them. I know it's like anything, you know, like here we are with this grape harvest this year, and everybody's thinking, oh, are we going to have one? When's it going to happen? I mean, anytime you're trying to plan something around something ripening or blooming, you're always crossing your fingers and hoping for the best weather that you can,
Exactly, yeah. And then one of the other exciting things that's happened at the Cultural Center is the Chamber of Commerce used to be inside or in one of our wings, and they recently moved to a better location for them. And so we've introduced a small, intimate black box theater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so we're having theater performances by 3 different repertory clubs in the area. So there's the Valley Repertory Theater, and then there's Chehalem Players Repertory, and I believe also the Willamette Shakespeare Company might be doing some smaller performances there
great.
too. So yeah, like they're doing things through Christmas, and then they have shows pretty much every quarter. So you can always look on our website too for those kinds of details. But it's really fun because it's a max of about 40 people that are in the audience.
And I know that you do have future plans to develop a bigger theater. Is that?
Of course,
Yeah.
yes. It's just about getting the funding to support that at this time. We are building, right now the Cultural Center is about a third of the way complete. So our next phase is developing our ballroom and event space because that's going to be a revenue generator for us, and it's going to be more sustainable for us. And that'll probably involve a commercial kitchen. We're exploring whether or not to do cooking classes or if it's more of a catering kitchen, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we're always looking for additional revenue to help support those building campaigns. And then, so that's the next phase. And then the final phase would be kind of completing the upstairs space. So it'll be making the lobby more of a grand lobby with a beautiful staircase that leads up to this amazing 240-seat auditorium.
That's going to be great.
Yes, and
Very dramatic and very fabulous.
yeah, and it's still an intimate size. It's not large by any standards, but it's an intimate size, and we foresee a lot of different performances happening there, and especially with all the visitors that come from our area, we're going to be able to accommodate a lot of night entertainment that Newburgh really hasn't had.
Because you haven't had the room for it. It's really true. I mean, a part of that is, where do you put people?
Yeah.
So that's going to be wonderful. Well, I really want to thank you today for being on the show, and I have learned a ton. And I'm really getting kind of excited, actually, because I have a 9-year-old grandson, and I'm thinking, I'm going to have him quite a bit. So this will be kind of fun to think of some, holiday activities to do. And I hope other people are having that same little sparkle in their mind.
We hope so, too.
Yeah.
We hope so, too. But thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you.
Yep.